Are we ready?
You are live.
Okay. Do I? Thank you. Okay. Oh, I should put on the mic. Hello, everyone. We're going to get started. We have a few people who are on the way, but we're going to at least start with the public meeting statement, the pledge, and a few other things that we can do while they. All right. Look at that. Well, my presidency is short-lived, unfortunately. Here he is. I didn't get further than saying hello.
No, it's okay.
So,
You can do it. You
no, you're up. Public meeting statement. That's not the agenda, sorry.
There you go. Thank you. My apologies for my tardiness, everyone. So let's get started. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies, at which time any business affecting their interest is discussed and acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act and Board of Education Policy 0162, the Board of Education of the Borough of Bound Brook has caused notice of this meeting to be posted in the board office and at Bound Brook High School and mailed or faxed to the Courier News, Bound Brook Borough Clerk, South Bound Brook Board of Education, and any person who has requested individual notice and paid the required fee. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I believe procedurally we have to appoint Mrs. Snell as the.
I was in last week for
So
both
you're
meetings.
good. Awesome.
I'm good to go.
Thank you very much. Then we are up to roll call.
All right. Mr. Bell.
Here.
Mr. Fazio. Here. Mr. Dawson.
Here.
Ms. Casino.
Here.
Ms. Lima. Mr. Minhas. Ms. Musson.
Here.
Ms. Rusmano. Mr. Zepko. Mr. Januzzi.
Here. Okay, so we have our 6 members and we have a quorum, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Here we go. For president's comments tonight, I'll actually reserve them and just get us forward into the GEMS activities. And I do have some comments, but I'll bring them up during new business if that's okay.
Okay.
All right.
We have students of the month first. Then.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I apologize. So let's start off with our students of the month. Dr. S., would you like to do Lamont in the Annex, please?
Good evening. Lamont School Student of the Month is Clark Castillo. And Lamont Annex Student of the Month, Nora Turner.
Trace. For Lafayette School, Mrs. Clark.
Right. Our first student of the month for Lafayette is Naomi Lopez. And we also have Juliet Pinetto.
For Smalley, Mr. Edwards.
Good evening, everyone. Our first recipient is Chance Sanders. Our next recipient, Victoria Velasco Rojas. Our next recipient, Nazareth Antonio Rita Velasquez. And our last recipient, Matthew Moore.
Santa Summer.
Hello, everyone. The Community Middle School is proud to recognize as its Student of the Month, Adina Commodore. The Community Middle School is also proud to recognize as its Student of the Month, Eternity Baptiste.
And for the high school, Mr. Smith.
Good evening, everyone. The high school is pleased to announce the recipients of the Crusader Citizen of the Month. First one, Leslie Salas. Our next recipient, Allison Gutierrez. Our third recipient, Daniel Gutierrez. And last but certainly not least, Jaden Brimage. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're gonna wrap back around to Dr. S for the GEM Award for Lamont Annex.
This month's GEM recipient is Mrs. Brimage, our school secretary. Mrs. Brimage is always happy and willing to help staff, students, and parents as needed. She goes above and beyond and regularly recognizes and addresses matters that need to be done. She's even gone out of her way to learn some basic Spanish words to help her Spanish-speaking parents. She's also met with parents and taught them how to log into their children's Chromebooks or helped create a Genesis parent portal. Beyond being a natural go-getter and problem solver, she's always willing to assist as needed and is a true team player. She helps everybody without asking questions and always keeps me informed of what's happening in the building. She helps with morning arrivals, dismissal, after-school activities, and anything else that needs to be done. We are lucky to have Mrs. Brimage as part of our team. Congratulations and thank you for all your hard work.
For Lafayette School, Ms. Clark.
Lafayette's gem for the month of June is Renee Jacobs Brower. Through her constant dedication, Mrs. Jacobs Brower has helped students not only strengthen their speech and language skills, but also their social and cognitive communication. With each therapy session, Mrs. Jacobs Brower has helped students gain confidence, allowing them to develop as learners and individuals with tailored support to meet their needs. Her ability to clearly communicate with families and other members of the Child Study Team has allowed the adults in her students' lives to access the most up-to-date information while including specific ideas on what can be done to further support the student at home and outside of the therapy sessions. Mrs. Jacobs-Brower creates interactive lessons that make her therapy sessions engaging, creating a fun environment, leaving her students eager to return. Mrs. Jacobs-Brower, thank you for your dedication to our students. Lafayette appreciates you.
For Smalley School, Mr. Edwards.
Mr. Distorti is most deserving of this award for June. He takes on all physical education classes from grades 3 to 6 and 4 to 6 health lessons. His classes are always an enjoyment to watch. Team building, integration of music, mindfulness, old school and new school games are some of the lessons the students get on a daily basis. Some other recognizable accomplishments that make Smalley School better are the Smalley Olympics, where grade level homers pick countries and play games to get the most points. The closing ceremony is tomorrow, will take place for gold, silver, and bronze. He also plans the field day events with our health teacher, Ms. Kodak. Again, we had another successful year. That day was a hit, and the students got a nice pop. That's why they like Mr. Distorti. Mr. Distorti isn't just a physical education teacher, but he also has been a coach in the district, high school and baseball. He participated in the district dodgeball tournament representing Smalley School. He attends games or events for students in the district. Mr. Distorti is always supporting his colleagues and administration. He had a slideshow and physical education standards ready for our spring open house. He helped with our multicultural night. He even was the principal for Smalley School for 5 minutes to play an April Fool's joke for our students. He changed his schedule around to help the day run smooth with New Jersey State testing. Mr. Distorti goes above and beyond for the students and staff at Smalley School. Thank you, Mr. Distorti, for not just being a physical education teacher, but a positive influence outside the classroom.
For Community Middle School, Mr. Santasomo.
Good evening again. The Community Middle School is proud to recognize Kim Pradatis as its GEM Award recipient for the month of June. I'm proud to say that Mrs. Pradatis is emblematic of the staff at Community Middle School who go above and beyond each day in order to put their students' needs first and help them succeed. You'll find no stronger advocate for students than Mrs. Pradatis. Over the years, Ms. K has worked very hard to help identify students with learning difficulties and ensures all pertinent and relevant data is collected and shared in order to ensure her kids receive the additional supports they need. Recently, the Child Study Team at CMS recommended that a student be assigned a mentor in the building in order to help address social and emotional needs. Ms. Pradatis, who already served as a teacher mentor, quickly volunteered. Earlier this school year during basketball season, Coach Melisergo hosted a teacher appreciation night. Student athletes on the varsity basketball team selected a teacher that made a significant impact in their lives. Of course, Mrs. Pradatis was one of those teachers. Ms. K volunteers for fundraisers, attends various high school and middle school events in support of her students, and is hands down the best baker at the Community Middle School. When I think of what it means to develop a school community, I think of things in terms of a family. Being there for one another throughout the highs and the lows that not only come with teaching, but are a reflection of life itself. In many ways, Mrs. Pradatis is the heartbeat of CMS. She helps organize staff breakfasts, volunteers for the Sunshine Committee, and as recently as today, organized a retirement luncheon for Mrs. Lee. For the upcoming school year, I asked teachers if they would be interested in having input regarding next year's 8th grade class rosters. Mrs. Pradatis not only volunteered, but garnered input from the 7th grade team and presented me with a completed list of teacher recommendations within a couple of days. Mrs. Pradatis makes sure that all students and staff leave their mark at CMS. She does this in a literal sense by creating thumbprint posters each school year, which can be seen in the main office lobby. For all of this and more, and on behalf of the members of the CMS staff, I would like to thank Kim Cradatis for her contributions and for always going above and beyond.
And for the high school, Mr. Smith.
Good evening once again. It is with great pleasure that we announce Mr. Pierre Ad as the high school gem for the month of June. Mr. Ad has been a huge asset this year in helping our school and holding our students accountable, as well as stepping in to ensure the safety of our students. For example, during the study hall period, Mr. Ad covers the front door, greeting visitors, as well as helping to track down students. He has been consistent in reaching out to several parents this year in regards to students' grades and behavior. He emails and calls parents not only for negative situations, but also to let parents know when students improve in class. This communication is essential for students to be successful in school. Furthermore, Mr. Ad is always ready to offer an encouraging word or to offer help to any one of his colleagues who may need it. When there's a stressful situation going on, Mr. Ad is always good to provide a form of comic relief or encouraging word to help ease the stress. He's always quick to act when a staff member is in need of assistance. Mr. Ad is currently in a graduate program pursuing his master's degree in educational leadership. Throughout the program, he has been learning about the inner workings of our school and the administrative decision-making process. Lastly, beyond the classroom, Mr. Ad demonstrates a willingness to organize and participate in extracurricular activities as he assumes the role of varsity boys soccer program. This year, he also volunteered to play on the high school team for the CMS dodgeball tournament. It is for these reasons, and among many others, that Mr. Ad is deserving of the title gem or going the extra mile. Congratulations.
And one final student of the month from Dr. S.
Mount Elementary School, student of the month is Clark Castillo.
Tuesday. We're going to take a brief 5-minute recess. If anybody wants to get a picture with your favorite principal, please feel free. We'll resume the meeting in about 5. Thanks, everybody.
You are. You're unmuted and good to go.
Awesome. So we're going to call back to order, 6:57 if it matters. We are up to section number 3, which are our committee reports. I believe our Education Committee and Governance Committee met earlier this evening. Mr. Bell, would you like to update the board?
Sure, I'll fill everybody in. We'll start with education. Maybe we should, there we go. Maybe people can hear me now. Sorry for those of you behind me, I apologize. We started talking about the still yet to be filled Spanish position. It's been open for quite a while. As I'm sure you know, Spanish is a very difficult position to fill right now. We're going to be using a company called Elevate K-12. I don't know if you guys know exactly what that is, but I would call it like a hybrid model almost, right? You've got a virtual teacher that's kind of contracted out, and then we've got an instructional aide in the classroom that's doing more of the classroom management type stuff. It allows kind of us to hire them and cover more spots than one person in the district could do, especially because obviously we can't fill that position right now. So while it's not ideal, it is much better than Rosetta Stone. So South Boundbrook is using this program and they've had pretty good success with it. So we're going to see how it goes next year. That's one. Any questions on that? I'm sure Ms. Fisher would probably do a better job answering than I would.
I do have documentation that I can share. I can include that in the weekend report or however you want it disseminated, so.
Okay. Do you want to mention number 2 on that list?
We discussed it.
Yeah, we discussed substitute secretary pay rates. Let's just say that, and they'll be changing it.
By law, though, we
By law.
have to be in line with the minimum wage.
There
and
you
right now
go.
we're not. So,
Yes, they haven't been updated, kind of an oversight, so they'll be updated and brought up to minimum wage.
yeah.
Good.
Okay. Kind of a really positive one. The elementary school teachers have been asking for some common planning time, and we've found a way, we think, to make that happen for them. We're going to bring back into the district something that was here many years ago, which are lunch and recess aides. At least that's our goal, so that they can have 25 minutes instead of covering a recess. They can have 25 minutes to meet with their
Grade level.
their grade level peers. So it's something, we kind of build it in at the end of the day, but the end of the day is very difficult with pickups and other things happening. They can be really challenging to actually get together to meet. So this will be a dedicated time for them to get together and meet, hopefully every day. That's the plan. So it should be a really big improvement. It's something that the teachers are looking for. So happy that we're able to give that to them.
Great.
Substitute rates was something else that we've talked about. We know that this has been an issue in every district in the state. I don't even know, probably the country, I would imagine, definitely in the state. And we are talking about maybe possibly bringing those rates up a bit. Budget pending, we have to take a look at the budget and see if that money is there, but we want to try to be competitive with neighboring districts and hopefully get subs that can relieve our teachers instead of covering a million classes and our principals moving people around. And I know that's not fun.
Disrupting the entire.
Yes,
schedule.
that is, I'm sure the worst part. It's the worst part of my job is being called into the office and you know what's coming. What are you doing 5th period? Guess what you're doing now? Like, yeah, that's not a fun conversation. So hopefully this helps a little bit. We don't know what that rate is going to be because we have to look at the budget and we'll see how that go, what money is there for it. But we hope we can do something there to be competitive. Some districts have decided to move them up. So we're going to try to do the same. You maybe want to talk about the awards and the SAC position.
Sure. So we were approached to come up with some ideas to put together for the New Jersey School Boards Association School Leader Awards. So we are going to be putting in 3 applications. One of them is for our mental health services that we provide in the district. The second is for robotics, and the third one is for our work-based learning CTE program. All of those, we received information from the district leaders who are responsible for those programs, and then they went to the PR firm who put the finishing touches on our applications, and the applications are due on the 24th. So after this meeting, I'll make sure that everybody has them to take a look at before we finally submit them later this week. The SAC position, that was a position that we were looking to hire for the high school. It was a bilingual SAC/counselor. That position was tabled, and we are putting it back in. We're able to fund a large portion of the salary through title funding, so it should offset. There's a couple of things that we're doing here. We have our current district SAC will be moving into the bilingual SAC position at the high school, and we will be hiring to backfill her position, a district SAC who will be housed at community middle school and working with our grade 5, 6 through 8 population, but also the two of them will work together as a team, providing our services that we need in that area.
That's that. Any questions from any members who were not there?
And just to add, if I can add add to the Elevate K-12, it's also a great program because it does, if children are having difficulty and things need to be modified, they are able to look into those areas of need, and they are able to assist the teachers to provide them a plan as to how they can assist those students who are struggling. So it really is it's very thorough. And again, it gives us that flexibility. At this time, like I said, I represent South Bound, and at this time we're only using it for Spanish, but there definitely is the possibility of using any other languages if that is something that the district would, want to offer.
Is that only an education platform? I mean, a language platform, or do they?
No, all subject areas.
All subjects, okay.
And that's that.
Good on education. Want to slide right over to governance?
Yeah, might as well.
All right, let me open up my notes here. Give me one second. Okay, so where are we? Okay, we started out talking about the website, just a little bit where that stands and where it's going. Ms. Casino, maybe you want to kind of give your summation of your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. So it looks like they're on track to get the site done this summer. That's what I'm hearing. So we'll have a follow-up, I'm sure, with the website development company. We did receive a quote, which I think is in the agenda tonight, for the upcoming school year for website service support and PR support for that. So, I have some notes on that. That's not really associated to the website that is on track to be launched this summer. And as far as I know, I think everything is on track. We've gone through the testing. We've had comments from the community on the look and feel of it. So I think we're in good shape on that. So it would just be about the upcoming contract that we want to look at.
The other stuff that we really talked about, a lot of it has to be put on hold, honestly, until next month, because we're talking about things like a board retreat and what we're going to discuss there, and things that we're going to be doing going forward, setting goals for next year, for the coming year, really not, let's not call it next year, the coming school year as a board, and what we're looking to do. One of those may be possibly, we keep kicking this around, is restructuring the way we meet, whether we stay with committees or some kind of hybrid, or we completely abandon committees. That's something that will probably all be worked out in the coming months, but I think that's probably something we'll have to discuss at that retreat, I would imagine. But I think once Dr. Freeman is officially on board, we can really have a lot healthier conversations there, because he's going to have his input as well. So it's hard for us to have those conversations. But we did kick around some ideas, pros and cons, and there are a lot of pros and cons on every side of this conversation. So we, to be quite honest, we didn't get very far in the direction of a resolution. But there was a good, healthy conversation about it, at least. Anything I missed?
No.
Okay.
Any questions for Mike on either of the two committees before we move on? Okay. At this point, we are open to the public for agenda items only. This is section 4.1.
Are you able to get online?
I should be able to get online now, actually. Let's see if I can do that. Education, 6:20, open to the public. Responses. Who actually got there this time, and there are no questions online.
Okay, did we ever backtrack and look at last meeting?
No questions asked.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody in the public?
Going once, going twice. You're good. Okay, we are up to section 5. This is the approval of our minutes from 6/6. So resolved that the Bound Board of Education approves the minutes for the following meeting, regular and executive meeting minutes of June 6th, 2022. Have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bowell. Second.
Second,
Thank you, Ms. Guzino. Any discussion?
I need to abstain.
Thank you, Mrs. DeFazio. That would be reflected in the
Right, the
minutes.
last one.
I need to abstain now too. My second.
You can second the motion. You can't necessarily vote the motion.
Okay.
Was only 4 members able to vote, then would we be able to actually pass this?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Fazio, have you as abstaining? Yep. Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Guzino,
I have to abstain as well.
Ms. Lima,
Yes.
Ms. Masson? Yes. Ms. Rusma, oh, I'm gonna jump down to Mr. Januzzi.
Yes. Just bear with me for 1 second, actually, I have to ask a question. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so we are up to section 6. 6.1, resolved that the superintendent recommends for approval the resolutions as outlined in personnel resolutions under district and high school. This is 6.1 through 6.14. I have a motion.
Motion.
Thank you, Mrs. DeFazio. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Musson. Any discussion?
I have a question on 6.14, the so the internship. So it starts in the summer, and what is it for?
He's going for his educational leadership certification.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's just the job.
Yes.
Okay.
I would just like to say, let me do this.
Yeah.
I would like to say that it's amazing to see all of these employments. I know that it is no easy task to hire this early in the cycle. Great job by administration to get these people in before the summer. Get them in position to get rolling quickly. Really awesome.
Yeah, and then the only other thing that I would add is Mrs. Guzino actually had a really good suggestion, which is to help board members kind of keep track of all the puts and takes. It would be really nice if we had an opportunity to view or review kind of a more organizational type chart of where we have open positions and where people are coming from and going to. So I think Mrs. Fisher and the team have already started to put some effort into creating something of that nature, and hopefully we can use it as an aid moving forward to better understand the impact of some of the changes that are being proposed.
Really helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Fazio,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Guzino,
Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Yes.
Ms. Musson, Mr. Januzzi.
Yes. Right. We are up to 7.1. Resolved that the superintendent recommends for approval the resolutions as outlined in personnel resolutions under middle and elementary schools. This is 7.1 through 7.14. Have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mrs. DeFazio. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Any discussion?
I would like to wish Ms. Hendershot nothing but the best. She's been a teacher here for a very long time. She's been wonderful, and I wish her luck in her retirement.
Agreed. Yeah. And-
For 7, 9, and 10,
Mhm.
we're rescinding. So I guess 7, 9 specifically, are they not, is this person not going to be employed or is,
Correct, she accepted a position in another district.
okay.
Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Paul,
Yes.
Mr. Fazio,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Gazino,
Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Abstain.
Ms. Messon,
Yes.
and Mr. Januzzi.
Yes. Item number 8.1. Resolved that the Bound Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in education resolutions under district and high school. This is just 8.2. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mrs. DeFazio. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. Any discussion?
I read about that. I think that's a wonderful trip that they're making. That's awesome.
I have a question. Would we be ever interested in opening that up to, let's say, sophomore to junior level students? Because I see a lot of it is about preparing, college preparation, but I just wonder if senior students already sort of have gone through a lot of that preparation, that a younger grade level it might be helpful to kind of, look forward to that. I don't know.
I have to look a little bit more into it.
Okay. Just a note.
Yeah, because I agree, like, by junior year, that's where you've done all your application process.
Kind of gone through all of that. Yeah,
So like, having that in the sophomore year might be beneficial.
I agree. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Fazio,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Gazino,
Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Yes.
Ms. Messon. Yes. Mr. Januzzi.
Yes. All right, we are up to item number 9.1. Resolved that the Bound Brook Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in policy resolutions under district and high school. This is just 9.2. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mrs. DeFazio. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Any discussion?
So this is adding a second school resource officer, right?
So this would be replacing, because we're not going to have an SRO, replacing that with 2 Class 3 officers.
And what's the difference?
School resource officer is actual police officer with policing powers. Special law enforcement officer is a former police officer who's retired and has more limited authority to act in the school. They're still armed, they still serve the security function. But if you need a police officer to make an arrest, et cetera, you have to call the department and have them send over someone, essentially.
Okay. And so now we have 2. Where are they going to be housed? Do we know?
I
I would
believe,
assume the high school is.
I believe the intent was the high school and the community middle school as a base, but with, the
Right.
opportunity to float as necessary to the other buildings.
Okay.
The one thing that I will add, and I think it's more administrative than anything else, there is a reference in the contract. There's actually multiple references in the contract to an Exhibit A,
Yeah.
which is not actually a part of the information that was posted to the agenda. So I think
We should take.
we should probably table this. The only thing that gives me a little bit of pause is the fact that it's set to begin on July 1st of this year. So does that present any particular challenges?
It doesn't, and you can prove it after the fact and then make it retroactive. Not gonna have any officers obviously there during that period. I don't know whether the intent was to have them begin operating over the summer or not, frankly. The extent school's closed, but I don't foresee any issue with
Okay. So that actually would be my recommendation, just so that the members have the full breadth of the
Right.
contract before we
Yeah.
actually have to take a vote.
Okay.
So I'm going to move that we table the motion.
I second it.
Thank you, Michelle. Should we do a roll call or can we do a show of hands?
You should debate the motion.
The motion to table?
Table.
I apologize, yes. So any comments or questions regarding the motion to table before we vote on it?
I was going to ask where Exhibit A was.
I beat you to the punch. There you go.
Are those resource officers needed for summer programs?
In the past, we had a resource officer here for the summer programs. I'm not aware.
No.
I don't believe we
He's
have.
shaking
Yeah,
his
so I
head.
don't think we need them for the summer programs.
Then I think that's the best course of action.
And this is considered a shared service?
Correct, because we are effectively purchasing services from the borough.
Okay, but you, and I wasn't sure about the actual title of the role, like the person in the role. But it sounds like it's a retired officer, is that it? So would this officer be doing duty within the borough and then partially doing it for the school district?
I think the intent is specifically just to be assigned to the schools.
Okay, so this is not a service that the school district can hire on its own without needing the borough? Or is it? I guess I'm wondering what the definition of a
sharing
shared
is.
service is. You're sharing it, but it sounds like we're paying for it. The service is being done for the district.
Well, I think the sharing comes in the fact that the officers would ultimately be an employee of the borough, right? And then they're assigned to us based on the shared service agreement, and we're paying an amount commensurate to procure those services from the borough.
So this is where their location would be, where they go report to work. They would
Station,
report there.
correct.
Okay. Okay, so they are required to be hired by the borough.
I don't know if it's technically required, but it's just the way that it was agreed upon in this instance.
So they're hiring former police officers then?
Correct, so the law limits people that can, carry a firearm, et cetera. One exception of the law was this establishment of special law enforcement officers created specifically for operation in school. So I believe, if I recall correctly, this is the only location that an SLEO 3 can act in that role in the schools. There's other SLEO, I believe it's 2 that can do like special assignments at the beach type thing.
Okay.
But the SLEO 3 is specifically school based.
So do they have to be former Boundbrook police officers? Could could any retired police officer?
Just a retired police officer.
And they can't really service the borough in any other capacity than working for the school district.
The SLEO 3 rank position, I believe, is only school-based assignments.
I'd be really interested to see that exhibit A, to see the financial breakdown of that.
And listen, even without that, I think if the options are between hiring an SLEO 3 and going to a private security firm, or even a full-time officer, I mean, part of the reason why we're having this conversation is because, we don't have an SRO potentially available,
Right.
but also because economically, we can probably afford 2 of these officers versus 1 SRO.
Gotcha.
Because of, the benefits that are associated with the SRO position versus what's required with these. So financially, this actually, I believe, is the path of least resistance.
Gotcha. Okay. But the financials will help.
Exhibit A should enumerate all of that in copious amounts of detail.
Mysterious exhibit A.
There you go. Okay. So I believe we have to vote the motion to table item number 9.2. Okay.
All right, Mr. Ball,
Yes.
Ms. DeFazio,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Gazino,
Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Yes.
Ms. Musson,
Yes.
and Mr. Janussi.
Yes. So the motion carries and 9.2 is tabled, hopefully only until our next meeting. Okay. We are up to item 10.1, resolved that the Bound Brook Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in special services resolutions. This is 10.2 only. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mrs. DeFazio. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Guzino. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, can we do a roll call, please?
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Ms. DeFazio,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Guzino,
Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Yes.
Ms. Masan,
Yes.
Mr. Janussi.
Yes. Okay. We are up to the longest resolution that I've seen in my tenure on the board. Item number 11.1, resolve that the Bound Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in financial resolutions. This is 11.2 through 11.19. A motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mrs. DeFazio. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. Discussion.
Ms. Guzino is in this room. You want to table that? The contract?
Yeah, I wanted to make a note that the document that was attached to the agenda was of a spreadsheet of showing all of these expenses, but the column with the description was truncated. So it's really hard as a board member to go through the list and know exactly what the definition of the expense is if the definition is truncated. So if we can either get an Excel sheet or a PDF with all of the columns expanded, that would be super helpful.
I think that's fair. Are you suggesting that we should hold action on that item until we have that information?
Well, I do have a hold on one of the items under 11, so I don't know if that holds the whole list or.
It does not.
Oh,
They
okay.
all go separate.
You want to table 11.13, right?
Yeah.
So 11.3 is payment of bills for student activity?
11.13.
Oh, 13, sorry.
Yeah, it was something that we discussed during governance, that we had a discussion, and we think that we need more information and discussion on that topic.
Okay.
Before we want to move it. So, Lisa, are you going to make a motion to table 11.13?
Yeah, can I make a motion?
You may.
To table 11.13?
I will second that.
Thank you, Mrs. DeFazio. Any discussion about the tabling of motion 11.13?
This is where you would tell us why you want the table.
Really?
Say again if you want. I think you've already covered it for the most part. What I heard was that the documentation that was attached to the agenda was truncated, so it's difficult to fully understand. And I think nominally, we want to be sure we understand what's inside of the scope of services and how they relate to what we're already providing in terms of district personnel, so that we can understand that they're either complementary or.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So are we talking about all, the full,
Right now, we're just talking about
Just about
tabling
13.
13.
because that is just
That's-
one contract, that's just,
Yeah.
Correct.
yeah. So that doesn't have anything to do with the truncated.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
that's
All of
Yeah.
the
Different issue.
expenses, 11.1 to 11 point, there's a lot, 19?
Right, we're just voting on, we're voting to table the 11.13 as regards to the Laura Bishop
Correct.
communications.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep, so it's just that one line.
Yeah, when we talked in governance, there was stuff in the contract that outlined particularly possible extra hours, and so we wanted to just make sure that we have procedures in place so that we can address how those are handled by the district.
Right.
So we don't have those answers yet, so we recommend tabling that so that we can discuss that further.
Agreed.
Understood. Any other comments or questions about the motion to table 13? Okay. Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Ms. DeFazio,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Guzino,
Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Yes.
Ms. Mussen,
Yes.
and Mr. Janussi.
Yes.
Any other?
Okay. So now 13 is tabled.
I did want to say for the donations, thank you to Staples for $7,800 worth of donations.
That's
awesome.
their third time that they have
Yeah.
donated to us
That's
so
really
far.
Yeah, that's Because at first I was reading, I was like, oh, 600 pencil boxes, $7,800. I was like, what kind of pencil boxes are those?
Yeah,
And then I went back and reread, I'm like, oh, additional
We're
supplies.
full of school supplies, right? So right now we have about 2,000 of them that
That's
we'll be
awesome.
handing out to our students in the fall.
That's great.
Now, Mrs. Guzino, you were mentioning an issue with the rest of the items that are actually attached to the agenda.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not noticing
Yeah.
anything being truncated. I'm actually seeing PDFs attached to the agenda,
Right.
not Excel documents. Was there anything in particular?
So if you open the PDF document,
Yep.
you'll see, you can read across.
Mhm.
The account description doesn't give a full description of what the expense is. So I can see
Correct.
where they started it, but I don't know the full description of the.
And so that is actually just which of the actual accounts in our chartered accounts where the expenses would actually be coming from. I wouldn't call that a description of what we're purchasing per se, because they're grouped into like employee benefits or salaries, or, that's the level that you're actually getting with the account description.
Okay.
So I understand your point, which is many of them are truncated with an ellipsis. And it's difficult to track them back to the individual financial statements. However, I don't know that what you're missing is more explanatory in that particular column. I think what we're looking for is something that's not actually a part of that report, which is a more thorough explanation, almost like the memo line on a check, right?
Right. I mean, I haven't seen a document with these expenses outlined, so I'm looking at this for the first time. So I think part of it is just as a new board member, I'm reading through this and I'm seeing expenses, but I'm not understanding what they are. And I'm simply coming to it as if I'm expected to vote on it, I want to know what I'm voting on, otherwise I have to abstain. So it's just a matter of like putting the information in front of me so that I can understand what I'm actually voting on.
I think that's fair. The one thing that I would draw your attention to is what's not a part of our packet this particular meeting, but would have been in prior months, are actually financial statements.
Okay,
The financial statements do have the full account descriptions
okay,
that these would be aggregated into. So think of this as a transaction level report.
okay,
Each time we send a check, you're going to see a line in this particular payment of bill schedule.
okay,
And then those would be summed up and presented in our financial statements, which might be a little bit more explanatory
okay.
in terms of, how much we've spent year to date, whether or not we have budget for this spend, where we're at relative to what we're doing.
So when we talk about the approval of these, what are we actually approving tonight when we vote on this?
To actually make the disbursements that are listed here to the payees that are
So we're approving these payments going out to people.
correct.
So again, it's like, I don't know what I'm paying people for if I can't read it.
Understood.
I mean, I'm happy to abstain, and I'm sure you guys all know because you sat longer than I have. But it's just good to have a description in there, so I know what it is.
Sure.
Sorry to be so picky.
No, listen, it's entirely within your purview. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Ms. DeFazio?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Gazino?
Abstain.
Ms. Lima?
Yes.
Ms. Musso?
Yes.
Mr. Januzzi?
Yes. Okay. We are up to other matters to come before the board, which there have been none presented.
So were we supposed to say, oh, no, we already tabled 11, 13, so that's gone.
Correct.
It's not in the one, okay.
Measure twice, cut once. I like it, don't worry. Okay, we are up to new business. Anything to be discussed from the members? Nothing special? There's nobody else past you, I don't know why I'm looking over there. Okay, all right. Hearing none, we are open to the public for discussion. Any comments from the room? I am seeing none. Let's look online. There. One more double check. And I have no responses online. Okay, so at this point, we're going to move to go into executive session under items 1, 2, 3. And I believe that's it. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mrs. DeFazio, a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, so just to be clear, we're going into executive session under items 1, 3, 7, 8, and 9, not 1, 2, and 3 as I originally said. Sorry for the mix-up. We are ready, Tom.
You are unmuted. You are good to go.
Thank you, sir. We are up to item number 16.1. Resolved that the Bound Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in approval of HIB cases under high school. May I have a motion?
Motion,
Thank you, Mrs. DeFazio. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Roll call?
Mr. Ball,
Yes.
Mr. Fazio,
yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Gazino,
Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Yes.
Ms. Messon,
Yes.
Mr. Januzzi.
Yes. Item number 17.1, resolved that the Bound Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in approval of HIB cases under middle and elementary schools. This is 17.2 and 17.3. May I have a motion?
Motion,
Thank you, Mrs. DeFazio. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ball.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone the community middle school HIB report number 27 till the next meeting, because there's some information that the administration needs to include with that.
Great. Do we need to vote on that?
You do, so
Thank you.
first, the second, and then.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Any discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call to postpone CMS-2022-27?
Mr. Ball,
Yes.
Mr. Fazio,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Ms. Gazino,
Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Abstain.
Ms. Messon,
Yes.
and Mr. Januzzi.
Yes. So we will now return to the original motion, which is to approve items number 17.2 and 17.3, with 17.2 now amended to exclude CMS-2022-27. We're not actually taking discussion. Any other comments or motions to make? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Fazio,
Yes.
Ms. Gazino,
Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Abstain.
Ms. Messon,
Yes.
and Mr. Januzzi.
Yes. We have exhausted the agenda. Are there any other items to discuss? Otherwise, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you, Mrs. DeFazio. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Have a great evening.